Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
It's been exactly 1 year since I reviewed the AIM DualSense controller, and a lot has changed. I've reviewed virtually all of its competitors, such as the Scuf Reflex, Evil, Battle Beaver, MegaModz, 2 and 4 button options from Hex Gaming. In that 1 year time frame, AIM released a ton of new features on their controllers, including the V2 paddles, which I wasn't a huge fan of. Then recently, the V3 paddles, which are pretty sensual. They added digital, tactile, mechanical switches for the Dpad and face buttons, and I have to say I am a huge fan. In fact, I like them more than Battle Beaver, and I would say they're tied with Razer when it comes to mechanical face buttons. Then they released their Pro Grips, which are made out of recycled Ferrari tires. I don't think they are, but they're very grippy. They've also released a ton of new cosmetic or appearance modifications, new Hydro Dip front shells, including a Gamer Heaven themed controller. That's right, the YouTube channel has its own gamepad. And do not forget to use coupon code STALLIONS at checkout anytime you're purchasing from aimcontrollers.com, as you will lock in some pretty sweet savings, generally 10% off any order of $50 or more. However, July is a pretty thick, girthy month, and there are some massive savings to be had. All these controllers were sent for review over the last year or so. However, this is going to be an honest, comprehensive review. If there's any shortcomings or areas of improvement, any cons, you are going to hear about it. Not only so you, the consumer, are aware of it, but also so the company can make a better product over time. Let's grade the latest offering from AIM controllers on 13 categories and find out if this is a knuckle-dragging nincompoop or a plastic princess. Let's get it.
This is your controller captain. We've reached 6,900 feet. Go ahead and start flicking the sticks and mollywopping the back paddles.
You don't like back paddles? How about those rear buttons? We've tested almost 100 custom and premium controllers, and we're only at the beginning. You need a thumbstick guide or tutorial on how to overclock your controller? Check out the controller playlist.
Bing bong.
Controller captain out.
So price, platform, and where to buy. Well, you can pick these bad boys up on their website, or they have one model on Amazon over here, which goes for $200. It is a DualSense controller, and it does appear to be from AIM controllers themselves. This looks pretty legit. Doesn't seem like a third-party vendor. Looks like they also sell their gaming mice directly from their landing page, as well as a couple of options for DualSense controllers. Shows a lot of options here, but when you click on check more, the only DualSense controller that's actually offered is these four right here. It does offer Prime and free returns, which is great. Now, keep in mind, whenever you order from Amazon, you're getting a pre-built or a default. You're not going to be able to choose things in the builder, like cosmetic options or even the V3 paddles. However, what you can do is opt another $10 and get the V3 paddles when they come back in stock, of course. And as long as you have the AIM Pro back, which actually is this model right here, which has these little humps or haunches, you are able to swap between the V2 and V3 paddles, which we are going to talk about extensively during the rear paddle or button section of this review. Now, it does appear as if these two colorways, Red Storm and Dexter, are out of stock. However, Joker Green over here, which I don't know why they call it that, because I don't see a single speck of green on here. If it were St. Patty's Day, they'd be getting pinched in the tuchus. And then over here, they have black, all matte black, murdered out, which I would probably opt for. I think that looks pretty clean. If you get the red rear paddles, which are interchangeable, of course, you can buy additional paddles on their website as they are swappable. I think that'd be a good looking controller. Maybe some red control freaks on the thumbsticks, little black and red action. My recommendation is usually to give Amazon a good stern look when you're looking at purchasing a controller. However, with AIM, I would strongly recommend going through their website because you can utilize the builder, not to mention they're always running some kind of deal or promotion. Plus, if they are not, use my discount code STALLIONS at checkout at any time to get 10% off any order of $50 or more. And most importantly, you will be able to utilize their builder and have a lot more options available. Or if you want a pre-built, coming over here to limited edition, these ones are pre-built, one flavor fucks all, and they will ship out within 24 hours. So it should be within your greasy gamer mitts within a week. As for platform, they have controllers for PS4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, as well as gaming mice and mouse pads for, well, PC, or technically, you can use mouse and keyboard on console. As for price, the option on Amazon is $200 with Prime free shipping. The pre-built ready-to-ship models are $360 for just the controller, $380 for some included accessories, which I believe is a USB-C cable and maybe a carrying case. God, I'm good. Carrying case and cable. Well, let's go in the PS5 builder over here. One quick note that I always like to point out, it's $70 if you were to buy this DualSense, which you can get for $65 brand new on Amazon. Just by getting it through these custom companies such as Battle Beaver, I think it's $80 if you were just to pick up a stock DualSense. And granted, I don't think anybody's doing that, but not the place to buy a stock controller, let me tell you. All right, so say you just want to add remappable rear buttons. You're looking for the AIM Back Pro. Let's go ahead and relocate me over here. Yep, that works. Boom, and that's coming with the V3 paddles on her, by the way. Sick. This is why I always say AIM offers a tremendous value as far as custom controllers is concerned. If you want remappable rear paddles, you're looking at $141. That's before any discount codes, which currently you can get 20% off, which is around $28, plus smart triggers, which are those clicky mechanical mouse-like triggers, are $1 currently as well, so let's slap those on there as well. So if you're only looking for performance modifications, i.e. the remappable rear paddles, you don't care about cosmetics, you're looking at about $140 before discounts and promotions, which is not only good, that's actually cheaper than virtually all the competitors. Currently, however, the DualSense custom market is always evolving. But how expensive can these controllers get in the builder? Thank you for asking. Let's go ahead and put together a fully loaded flagship. So this controller I know is a bit of an ugly monstrosity, but I just slapped on virtually every option in the builder here, and you're looking at about $330. Keep in mind, smart triggers are currently on a $1 sale, so usually it'd be around $345. And this doesn't include any accessories like a carrying case or USB-C cable. You have to add those separately. So we can do that here. $9.90 for a USB-C cable, which are very long and braided and flexible, but still, you know, you probably have a USB-C cable laying somewhere around. Shell out an extra $20 for the charging station, sure. And then a carrying case, I believe, is an extra $25. You can get close to $400 if you're trying to slather on accessories. Quirks and Features, as Doug DeMuro would say. Well, it's a pretty quirky controller, to be 110% honest. Now, we're going to start with the features. Tons of options for hydro-dipped faceplates, rear shells, rubberized grips, remappable rear paddles. No increased thumbstick tension option, though. AIM, I know you're working on it. I know you are. This is the only controller that I have tested for the PlayStation 5 that does have removable rear paddles, minus the Scuf Reflex, which I actually did not know were removable when I reviewed it. I must have either missed that day in school, or they did not put it in the instruction manual, or I'm just a big dum-dum. All are valid possibilities. But unlike the Scuf Reflex, which is kind of a pain in the ass and you feel like you're gonna break it when you're removing the paddles, on the AIM controller, it is freakishly easy to remove 1, 2, 3, shoot, all the paddles. Maybe you're playing a game that doesn't need paddles, or you're sharing the controller with somebody that accidentally actuates them. You can just remove them. And what's more important than that is you can actually switch between two designs, the V3 paddles, which are these ones, and the V2 paddles, which we're gonna talk about extensively during the paddles or rear button section of this review, but I wasn't a huge fan. I do like these ones though. Newly released feature with these pro grips, which I have to say are pretty good. AIM is top of the pack, just slightly below Battle Beaver when it comes to customization and the sheer amount of performance and cosmetic or slash appearance options available to you in the builder. This also has some of the best mechanical switches in the face buttons and D-pad. It is better than the options I have seen from other companies, minus Razer. I would say this is tied with Razer when it comes to tactile, clicky, action slash face buttons, and directional pad over here. Again, entire section for these switches. They deserve it. This controller does also offer LED RGB lighting around the analog sticks. Don't do it. Steer clear of that option. Save your money. We'll talk about it later. This is the only DualSense controller I have tested that has a lifetime warranty. Granted, that is limited and does not include stick drift. We'll cover that during the warranty section, but it is the best warranty I have personally seen in about 3 years of testing and reviewing controllers. Next interesting quirk, this controller actually does have a charging dock that is meant specifically to work with its rear paddle system, and it's actually relatively inexpensive at about $20. I do have that in my possession. I've been using it for the last 3 weeks, and a comprehensive review is coming in the near future. It's not perfect, but it is good. Worth 20 bucks, I'll say that. Not much more though. And the last interesting quirk about this controller is that it is actually the cheapest 4-paddle custom DualSense on the market. Keep in mind, I have tested virtually all of its competitors minus Hex Gaming and Hyper, spelled Hypr. But including those two controllers that I have not reviewed yet, plus all the other PlayStation 5 DualSenses that I have reviewed, this is actually the cheapest, both before any discounts and then especially when you use any promotion or discount code that they have going on. As for the packaging and included accessories, I would say AIM Controllers has this button down pretty darn good. This box is a soft touch rubberized material. It is flat matte black with a gloss emblem or AIM logo with their website plug down here. Shows some of their available features in their builder, their smart triggers, click, click, flick my stick. Speaking of sticks, there's the different heights of the analog sticks. Now inside the packaging, you do have this plastic cutout. I would like to see some laser cut foam in here, but I understand that will increase their production costs, their logistics, and in return would probably increase the purchase price for us the consumer. So keep using plastic, AIM. Your analog sticks will generally be removed from the controller and in these two cups or dishes right here. If you did opt for an optional USB-C cable, it will be up here. I did say optional. They generally go for about $9.88 on their website. They are very high quality. They are 10-foot braided, and they are also color matched to match your controller. So I have gotten 2 black and red AIM controllers and was sent out these USB-C cables. Both of them are very lightweight, very flexible, metal on each end, did come with plastic dust covers. And to show that these aren't generic parts bin specials, they are branded on each side with the AIM logo. I mean, I'm sure they outsource these, but whatever. Who cares? Depending on what options you selected in the builder, you might also have a small plastic bag full of thumbstick caps. These will be in 3 different heights, low, medium, and high. Kevin, what the hell is low, medium, high? If you're feeling frisky post-editing, go ahead and put in millimeters or inches or centimeters, whatever your measurement of choice is, exactly how high these sticks are. I think the audience would appreciate that. And then in their accessories section of their website, they do have different heights and colors available. You most likely will also have a bag with additional paddles. I like that AIM sends these out because they could break as they are just plastic and they are removable. Maybe you take them off and your dog walks off with them or something. It is nice, and these are different. These are the V2 paddles over here, which we will talk about during the rear button and paddle section of the review. And then these are the V3 paddles over here. The original OG V1 paddles will not fit on the current version of the AIM controller. We are going to get super in depth with the rear buttons of this controller because they are pretty much tied for the best PS5 DualSense rear buttons on the market currently. I like that the packaging showcases the features of the controller, but is also pretty inconspicuous as it is flat matte black with some gray on there. Even if this didn't have a generic unbranded outer box, this is pretty inconspicuous. It's not going to gather attention from scum bums, scallywags, and ruffigans that might want to snag this off your porch. Bastards. I'm giving the packaging and included accessories 4 out of 5 stars. You want 5 stars, AIM? Put foam in here instead of plastic and include a USB-C cable, free of charge. Tossing around the scale to see if these hips lie, we're getting about 295 grams, which equates to 10 pounds, 4 ounces, and that is with the V3 paddles installed. Just the V3 paddles with their center disc, 1 ounce or 6 grams. The V2 paddles with their plastic center disc, 3 grams or 0.1 OZs. All right, let's measure our giblets around the widest part of the controller, which is going to be around the palm grips. You are looking at about 14.5 inches with an individual grip width of 5.25 inches, an overall width of 6.25, a height of 3.25, and a depth of 1.5 inches. The manufacturer's weight and dimensions will be on screen right here. As for ergonomics and practical comfort, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This thing's pretty goddamn comfortable. Why is that? Well, because it is the only one besides the Scuf Reflex you can remove all of the rear paddles, meaning you can hold it just like a regular DualSense controller, which in my opinion, the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller is the second most comfortable stock controller, nipping at the heels of the Xbox One/Series controller, which is ergonomically extremely comfortable in my opinion. Now, the comfort being rated high on this controller comes down to a couple of factors. First of all, it is using a licensed DualSense shell, so it is shaped just like a regular DualSense controller. Secondly, these rubberized grips are not only very comfortable, but also, well, grippy. The point of a grip. It's doing its job. Unlike me here recently. But even with the V3 paddles installed, it is a very comfortable experience. I will talk more on those during the rear paddle section, but just know it is a comfortable experience and you can hold this controller for hours on end. I'm giving ergonomics and comfort a 4 out of 5. Why not a 5 out of 5? Well, first of all, I prefer the offset sticks, not the symmetrical sticks of a PlayStation controller, so it is pretty rare that a Sony controller is going to get a 5 out of 5 here at Gamer Heaven because of the symmetrical thumbsticks. I like offset. And the second one being there is just the slightest little learning curve when you are getting used to using these rear paddles as compared to something like Evil or Battle Beaver, which has rear buttons sunken into the rear shell. I feel like those are less of a learning curve because they're pretty much flush with the rear shell and you're less likely to accidentally actuate them. Build quality, maximum score 5. Score of this controller, 5. Why is that? Well, there's no creaks or moans and groans in the plastic as I do the flex test over here. Everything feels very well buttoned down and it looks like an OEM factory controller. There's no panel gaps, everything is very well sealed, and it just feels like a very premium product in the hand. Unlike Power A, they're not slapping fishing weights inside of the palms. It's legit a good product. But what if it's not? As for the warranty, always read the fine print on these websites, or if it's for a controller, you don't have to. Just watch my reviews and I go in depth with these warranties. AIM does offer a lifetime, however, it is limited. What is it limited to? Well, parts or components that are not sourced or created by AIM. So they start with a stock DualSense controller. So those thumbsticks, they're not going to be covered for stick drift, minus 45 days from the delivery date, which is great because a lot of companies don't cover stick drift, period. Or if they do, it's 30 days. So you're getting 1.5 months here here, which is short, but better than nothing. But you do get a lifetime replacement warranty of the paint. So if the hydro dipping or the graphics, the paint job starts flaking. Controller buttons. So you bought those digital D-pad and face buttons. They start clicking weird or get jammed in. They will replace those. The smart triggers and bumpers, those mechanical mouse-like triggers and bumpers. The actual paddle system. So all of a sudden the remapping chip stops working or one of the buttons starts double actuating. They'll replace that. Some notes to be clear of here. Opening the controller by the customer voids the warranty. So if you try and do a teardown to custom paint this bad boy, hydro dip it yourself, that will void the warranty. So if you're having mechanical issues, I do recommend actually turning it into AIM for repairs rather than trying to repair it yourself, because if AIM gets wind that you have disassembled the DualSense controller yourself prior to turning it into them, how are they to know that you didn't cause more damage? And of course, with most warranties, this will not cover any visible damage that you threw the controller, gave it water damage, took a dump on it, used it as a frisbee with your dog, choked anybody out with the USB-C cable, or any other confuckery you can imagine with a controller. Overall, solid warranty. Now, as for the D-pad, face or action buttons, share and option buttons, touchpad, PS button, basically everything on the front of the controller minus the analog or thumbsticks, I'm going to be giving them an F for phenomenal. Wait. Whoops-a-doozy. AIM does offer their optional digital switches for the D-pad and for their face buttons, which is this many monies, and I do strongly recommend opting for both as they are fantastic. I don't know why I specified to opt for both. That is the only option. They come as a pair, and I think that's a fantastic value. A $30 kit or bundle for action buttons or face buttons and the D-pad, trust me, just get them. They are better than virtually any other controller I have tested, with the exception of Razer's offerings, such as the Rise U for PlayStation and the Wolverine Ultimate and Tournament for the Xbox brothers. This is tied with those, however, maybe slightly above because they are almost virtually silent. Not much louder than the stock rubber membrane switches, but they have a nice mechanical, tactile, clicky feeling like a mouse click, instant response and rebound, and when you press down on the right D-pad, it doesn't lift up on the left. When you press down, it doesn't lift on the top, because they are all 4 separate switches. And granted, you're not going to use these face buttons a whole heck of a lot because you've got these awesome rear buttons, but since they are removable, if you're playing a platformer or a racing game, something that doesn't need rear paddles, you're going to be touching these face buttons and you are going to be satisfied. These are freaking awesome, and another thing I really like is it doesn't cosmetically limit you in the color when you select these digital buttons. With Battle Beaver, I selected the digital D-pad, and guess what? I could only get black. Whack. This is the best D-pad and face buttons I have tested on a DualSense controller, and almost the best that I have tested, period. Again, it is tied with Razer's mechanical face buttons, but those controllers are only usable on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and Series. So PS5 wise, yes, this is the best face buttons and D-pad on the market. 5 out of 5. Yeah. If it could go higher than that, I would. That's just dumb. It's like when people say, I'm gonna give it 110%. I get what you're trying to do there, buddy, but it caps out at 100. It doesn't go higher than that. So I will be giving these 5 out of 5, but in my heart, they're a 6 out of 5.
How about the thumbsticks there, big dog?
You knew I was gonna get around to it, but you expedited the process by asking. So let's get down to it. Thumbsticks, analog sticks, joysticks, the 2 erect niblets that stick off the front of your gamepad. Well, AIM Controllers calls their thumbsticks AIM sticks, which is so clever, because it's the name of their company, but you're also aiming with them as well. It's a double entendre. In the builder, thumbstick base is going to be strictly a cosmetic option, so as you can see, it is white in this controller. It has the LED light kit in the controller we're reviewing here today. Performance-wise, AIM does offer 6 options with their thumbsticks, 3 being different heights of PlayStation hybrid sticks, and 3 being different heights of Xbox One/Series concave sticks. Their smalls are only 2 millimeters taller than default, but in my opinion, they look almost like a standard stick. How I always spec out my controllers, AIM included, is going to be the shortest possible option on the left and the highest possible option on the left, and when it comes to AIM controllers, I personally do prefer their Xbox thumbsticks, which are the ones that are on the controller we are reviewing here today. Here's a direct comparison of what they look like. As you can see, the PlayStation sticks are hybrid, meaning that they are both concaved and domed or convexed, and their PlayStation sticks are virtually identical to the stock factory DualSense controller. However, they do offer slightly more grip around the outside, and control freaks wise, the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 and 5 control freaks fit perfectly, and the Xbox ones are too small and will not fit without damaging your thumbstick. thumbsticks. Like I mentioned, I actually prefer the Xbox One and Series aim sticks versus the PlayStation 4 and 5 aim sticks, which are going to be hybrids. And the controller being tested here today does have the Xbox One thumbsticks. So everything you're going to hear as far as comfort, grip, Control Freaks compatibility is all applicable to the Xbox One sticks. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the aim sticks for a couple of reasons. First of all, they do swap. Now they're just held on with friction. They're not magnetized like the Razer controllers or the Microsoft Elite. They're just these plastic hexagonal shapes which click in and out. Now you do have to use a fair amount of strength, so I would experiment, use the sticks that you like, and then leave them installed unless they get damaged, because it could wear out your thumbstick modules by constantly removing and reinstalling these. The rubber or silicone compound that they're using is very good. I will say the center is a little bit lackluster, but the outside is where you're going to get the majority of your grip, because they have an absolutely fantastic textured material. It is kind of a rib design, and you end up catching your fingertip just perfectly, and I do get a ton of grip out of these stock sticks, to the point to where I actually don't run any kind of Control Freaks or thumbstick caps on my aim controllers. I just use the high right stick and the low left stick. I will say I do wish they offered increased thumbstick tension like Evil and Battle Beaver, and I do foresee them developing this feature and it appearing on their builder in the near future. That would make their analog sticks virtually perfect, but in the meantime, they're pretty good. You are going to have anti-friction or impact rings around the outside of the analog stick gate, so you're going to glide along smooth plastic rather than the rough plastic of the front shell when you are at full lock. All DualSense controllers are going to have this, as even the stock Sony controller has this, and it is definitely a welcome feature. As for the weight, resistance, snapping back to the neutral position, guess what? They're stock Sony DualSense thumbsticks. So if you felt those Adams potentiometer carbon strike plate thumbsticks, you felt these. As for thumbstick caps, we're talking about slip-over generic universal options like this, as well as branded Control Freaks. Of course, the universal ones are going to work. They're like condoms, they slip on. I don't like to use them, but they're good in a pinch. Now, in this sack, satchel, or baggie, I do have Control Freaks for Nintendo Switch, Control Freaks for PlayStation 4 and 5, and some Freaks for Xbox One and Series. The Nintendo Switch ones pop on, they are serviceable, they do work, however, they do rotate pretty freely. Keep in mind, this can happen sometimes. I went to remove the Control Freak and it actually popped off the entire aim stick. I do recommend popping on Control Freaks or thumbstick caps with the aim sticks removed in your hand like this, because that way you're not putting undue pressure on the thumbstick modules, installing and uninstalling these constantly. PlayStation 4 and 5, wiggly and loose, but do stay on. And the Xbox ones actually don't slip on at all. They are too tight. You can wedge them, but they'll still be all cockamamie and zany, all wedged up in there. So I can't recommend any of these. I will say the Switch and PlayStation versions are serviceable. Xbox doesn't slip on at all, but I would just go with some generic slip-on caps like this. They will be linked in the description below. Or if you have an affinity for Control Freaks and you just want to use them, go with the Nintendo Switch version. Now, like I mentioned, AIM doesn't currently offer increased thumbstick tension on the left or right stick, so what I've been doing is running some Control Freaks precision rings over here. I did a review of these and they're pretty silly for what they are. They're a little bit overpriced. They're just little foam circles that you put around your analog sticks to add a little bit of resistance. Because I'm using the highest right analog stick, I actually need to stack 3 of these to feel any kind of resistance. So keep that in mind if you're running the highest AIM stick. 3 Control Freaks precision rings will actually start pressing against the shell, so you get some resistance. Next thing I want to cover, they do have an option for LED RGB lights inside of the thumbsticks, which cost this many dollars. Skip it. You cannot turn it off, you cannot dim it, you cannot change the colors, and they're not coordinated or in sync. The left and right analog stick are doing their own things, so it looks kind of cheap or tacky because you cannot pick and choose the colors, you can't dim it, you can't turn it off, you have no control over this feature, and it's putting additional battery drain on your controller. Skip it and save your money. Over here on Gamepad Tester, we're not seeing any out-of-the-box dead zones. We're getting a 0.0002 on the horizontal and vertical axis on both the left and right analog sticks, which is very good. Let's test the circularity, which is going to give us our thumbstick accuracy. Okay, actually very good for a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. Okay, AIM, I see you. Let's go nice and slow on this one. Okay, so we're getting about 9% on the left and right analog stick when it comes to the circularity test, meaning that these are pretty accurate thumbsticks, especially for a DualSense controller, which is generally in the 10 to 15 realm. Now, AIM does offer mechanical tactile switches for the bumpers and triggers. That'll run you this many shekels for the triggers and this many ducats for the bumpers. These 2 AIM controllers have mechanical switches in the bumpers, but not the triggers, so I can still use the adaptive triggers on PlayStation 5. So this is the V1 controller, and this is the V2 controller. But it does feel different, so hopefully it's more reliable, which is a good thing because I've had no major reliability issues, but on this controller, which I've owned for over a year and has pretty much been my primary daily driver for PlayStation 5 use, the left bumper started to get a little finicky after about 4 months, where if I press the bumper on its leftmost side right here, sometimes it doesn't register. But if I press it in the middle or over here, it's fine. This bad boy has their mechanical mouse-like triggers, or digital triggers as they call them. That's the entirety of the pole right there. I do have a separate video that I will link in the description below going over why I generally opt out of removing the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers when building a DualSense controller if I'm going to be playing it on my PS5. If I'm going to be using these controllers on PC, then yes, I opt for these digital mouse-like switches and I remove the rumble force motors. I think the mechanical triggers and bumpers feel fantastic. They are not overly loud, but do have a nice satisfying click, and they are rated for millions of clicks. However, with my personal experience of having this left bumper get a little finicky on me, I'm going to give bumpers and triggers on the AIM DualSense controllers a 4 out of 5. Oh, the V2 paddles. Girl. Oh, but the V3 paddles. And of course, that OG V1 Spider Remap kit. These are always going to be money. I hope this controller lasts me for years to come because, damn. The most important feature of any premium, custom, or pro controller is going to be the rear paddles or buttons. Allows you to keep your fingers on the thumbsticks or analog sticks moving and aiming instead of touching things like the D-pad and face buttons. In this regard, AIM has been defecating on the competition. Let me explain. They were actually the first DualSense controller to offer 4 remappable rear buttons, not just of the removable flavor, but period. When I reviewed this controller over a year ago, it was the only 4-paddle DualSense on the market. That's awesome. They had the market cornered. Now they don't, but they're still awesome. This was their original offering called the Spider Remap chip, which was virtually identical to the system they were using on the PlayStation 4 controllers. I was a big fan of this rear paddle design for a couple of reasons. With this texturized rubber rear shell as well as the materials on these rear paddles, they felt very grippy and comfortable. Ergonomically, very good position. Where you want to naturally rest your hand, that's where your fingertips are going to be covering those switches. You're somebody that prefers 2 paddles, not 4? Cool. Remove the bottom or top 2. Playing a game like Crash Bandicoot or Gran Turismo, don't need paddles? Sick. Remove them. This was quick and easy to remap on the fly. Hold down the bottom 2 rear paddles. It's going to flash red around the touch bar. Hold down the face button you want with the rear button you want. Bam, it's bound. Keep going until you've remapped all 4 of the rear buttons. Now, all of that transferred over to the V2 and 3. However, this is where they slipped on a banana peel with the V2 over here. Let me explain. First of all, a quick PSA or disclaimer. It doesn't matter what paddle system you get from AIM, V1, 2, or 3. They don't even sell the V1 anymore, but maybe you're in the used market. Do not get an AIM controller that has a slick plastic rear shell. Opt for some kind of a rubberized back grip, whether it's this version, which I don't even think they sell anymore.
Only if you don't want rear paddles. If you actually want rear paddles, they do not sell that back shell anymore.
Or it's the Pro Grips over here. Their rear shell is slick as snot. The stock factory OEM Sony DualSense controller has some kind of a texturing on the back, which is actually very small Sony face buttons, stippled or etched into the back of the controller. So you get a little bit of grip. With the AIM controllers, because they don't have the trademark for those PlayStation logos, it is just an all slick plastic rear back shell, which is super slick. In combination with the V2 paddles, which had practically no grip, this is like the slipperiest back shell of a controller I have ever felt. It was to the point to where I was considering going onto Amazon and finding some kind of rubberized pads or grip tape that I could stick on here, just so my fingertips weren't slipping off the V2 paddles. Not to mention, these feel cheap and chintzy. In comparison to the V1 that they replace and upgrade, these felt like a step back. They ergonomically were not as comfortable. The plastics or materials felt cheaper and more susceptible to breaking. Less grip and substantially louder. Check this out. You're a streamer? That's getting constantly picked up over your microphone and passed over to your viewers. The original or V1 Spider kit. That's pretty quiet. Like I wish you were in the comment section. Just kidding. Especially the top switch is so much louder. This is how I naturally want to hold a DualSense controller. And as you can see, the ball of my ring finger can easily hit the bottom buttons, and the ball of my middle fingers can easily hit the top paddles. Is that the case on the V2? No. These bottom paddles are serviceable, again, too slippery for my liking and do feel a little bit cheap and chintzy. Also lifted off from the rear shell a couple more millimeters than they need to be. But these top ones are practically unusable. My fingers are just barely on them. They're constantly slipping off. Not a fan of the V2 paddles, man. But luckily in my glaucoma-filled brown eyes, AIM has totally redeemed themselves.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. and totally redeem yourself.
With these, the V3 paddles. Now, the most interesting thing is that this is the same controller in essence. As long as you are getting what is called the Pro back, which is going to be the one that has these rectangular haunches near the top, as long as you have this version right here, these three, this is called the Pro back, and it might either be slick like this, or it might have a rubberized material, or it might be the Pro grips like this. But just look for these two haunches or rectangles near the top. If you have that, you will be able to switch between the V2 and V3 rear paddles. Other than the rectangular haunches, you will also have an AIM logo emblazed or stamped in the top, which was not on the original controller. Another dead giveaway is that the switches are in two completely different positions. As you can see, the rear switches on the original Spider kit are down here, as where the new Pro back is aligned like that. So because of how these paddles work, there's a little plastic prong or peg, which presses those switches in the back, and that is what activates the switches. So because of that fact, the V2 and V3 are swappable, and the V1 is not. Now, the V3 paddles are their newest option. They are being shipped with some new controllers. It will denote in the builder if it is being shipped with the V3 paddles or the V2. If you are receiving the V2, the V3s are an optional $10 upgrade and are currently sold out, or at least were last time I checked their website. They have a nice texture on the plastic. I do wish they went with some kind of a rubberized material for a little bit more grip and comfort on the fingertips, but these do feel pretty darn good. Now, you can hold the V3 paddles like this. However, I do not. I actually cover all four of the rear paddles with just my middle fingers, using the tips to press the bottom two, and using the ball or middle of my middle fingers to press these inner buttons. It is still very loud, as it is the exact same switches as the V2. It's just changing the outer paddles. I do wish it was just slightly quieter. Granted, even if you are a streamer or YouTuber, if you have a strong noise gate on your microphone, it might cut out some of those clicks. Plus, it's almost expected if you're watching a live stream, you're gonna hear some clicks from a controller or mouse and keyboard. Now, me personally, if I had to rank them, I still prefer the original V1, or at the time they just called them the Spider Remap kit, then the V3 in second place, and then the V2 way in the hell back there in an island of I don't want to fuck with it. Now, I did mention that remapping the AIM DualSense rear paddles is very easy, but it's actually a little too easy. Let me show you what I mean. You're going to hold down the bottom rear paddles. You're going to get a devilish red glow from around the touchpad. Then you are going to press and hold down the face button you want. In combination with the rear paddle, it is going to flash. And then to exit remap button, you are going to hold down the rear paddles again. Now, I do wish AIM had an additional input in order to go into remapping mode. For example, having to hold down the mic mute button while you hold down the rear paddles, which is what Beaver does. So that way, if you're in a game and maybe you're holding down crouch and you're holding down square to interact with the environment, maybe open up a door or pull a lever or something, you're holding down both of these buttons for 3 seconds, you enter remapping mode, making your controller completely useless. That would be frustrating. So maybe in the next version, have it to where you also need to hold the mic mute button. A combination of button presses that you're never gonna accidentally hit in game.
What do you think about this for a new angle? Is this good mic placement? Plugged into Project Zero via the included USB-C cable. Again, optional USB-C cable. You gotta pony up the dough for it. Now let's go ahead and measure that polling rate. Uh-oh. Xbox 360 controller not found. Well, I guess we gotta sell the PC. Or another fun fix, we can go ahead and launch DS4 Windows and spoof our PC into thinking that this DualSense controller is an Xbox 360 controller. And there she is. We got a DualSense controller. Go ahead and hit edit. Full screen that bad boy. Other emulated controller, Xbox 360. Click apply. Nope, don't want to close it. Just minimize it. Now if we close polling rate checker and relaunch it, call it Woman's Intuition, I think it'll recognize our controller. I do have a separate guide or tutorial about this process that I'm doing right now, measuring the polling rate and then overclocking controllers. That's linked in the description below. Tis as I predicted, we're getting an average of 4 milliseconds of input delay on a 250 hertz polling rate. Let's run a couple more. Another 4 at a 250. Coming on around there too now. We got a 4 in the back there and a big old bosom and a fat ass, and we have sold to the DualSense controller in the back with the overclock. Hell yeah, 4 seconds and a 250 millisecond delay. Overclocker. Okay, this is our child over here, wireless controller, and we're gonna go ahead and send him to summer school. 1000. Install service. Open. Filter on device. Install service. Open. Unplug. Replug. Overclocked. Now, let's see if charging the spark plugs did anything for. Hell yes, it did. We are talking about under 1 millisecond of input delay. 0.9. That's not the way we conduct scientific tests, though. Run a couple more case studies, please, so we can average them out. Second pull, under 1 millisecond of input delay. Not the spread that I'd like to see on the minimum and maximum. Not the most consistent. Run another. That one's actually over a millisecond. Unacceptable. Run it again. There we go. That's what I like to see. A minimum of 0.5, a maximum of 1.2.
0.92 for a very tight spread. That is consistency at its finest, 0.94 as the average, and the polling rate is now at 1000 hertz. How about the wireless delag? To pair a DualSense controller to your PC via Bluetooth, turn it on via the PlayStation button. Then hold down the PlayStation button and the share button simultaneously for a few seconds. What's a few? I don't know. We're going to figure it out together. You will start getting rapid blue flashing around the touchpad. Then you're going to go to the bottom right of your PC. If you do not have Bluetooth on your motherboard, you might need to get a Bluetooth adapter. I will have one linked in the description below. Click on Bluetooth devices. Click on add a Bluetooth device. If it opens you up here, panic not. Click on add a device. Then click on this first option. You might see this one down here that says controllers and think, that's the winner. It's not the chicken dinner. Come over here to Bluetooth. Make sure you're still in discoverable mode. Wireless controller. Double click and you are connected. Now on Windows 11, you might have an additional pop-up box that will prompt you to connect your controller. I didn't see this on Windows 10, but I have been noticing it on Windows 11. Just confirm that it's okay.
Let's see about this wireless input lag or delay.
All right, first run, we're getting a 2.8 millisecond. This is via Bluetooth. I think we can get lower.
Another 3.5, not very consistent. Huge spread there. This is the lowest result I was able to get with this controller via Bluetooth, which is a 2.2 milliseconds, 0.7 on the minimum, and 21 on the maximum, so not the most consistent and also not the fastest. I have seen better numbers via Bluetooth on a DualSense controller, but this is still good performance, and I'm going to be giving it a 5 out of 5 for overclock performance due to the fact you can get under a millisecond of input delay when you are wired. Now, customization on the AIM DualSense controller is very good. I will be giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. In fact, they are only one small notch below Battle Beaver. If they want that extra star to max out, they're going to have to do a couple of things. First of all, increase thumbstick tension. Where is it on your builder? Not on there. And I didn't know what kind of a difference increased thumbstick tension really made until I tried those little foam precision rings from Control Freaks, and then I was like, okay. And then I tried legit increased thumbstick tension modules from Battle Beaver and Evil and was pleasantly surprised. It really is a game changer and definitely does increase your accuracy with those finite accurate movements. Next up, I wish they offered more thumbstick options. All they offer is their aim sticks in comparison to things like Battle Beaver and Evil, which have several different versions of thumbsticks available. And of the two thumbstick caps they offer, I wish they were both a little bit wider and taller. The right analog stick, I wish it was a few millimeters taller, and I would get a little bit more accuracy and finesse if they were wider surface area as well. Gives me a little more surface area for my thumb. And the next one is the fact that you cannot cosmetically change the color of the bumpers and triggers. Now, Evil was even worse in this aspect. Not only could you not change the bumpers and triggers, but you couldn't even change the touchpad or rear shell, greatly limiting the appearance or customization options. Some builders, such as Battle Beaver, not only let you choose the colors of your bumpers and triggers, but even individually. So not just the bottom two or the top two, but say you want mechanical mouse-like clicks on the left bumper and on the right trigger only, and you wanted each one of these buttons to be a different color, you could choose that in the Battle Beaver builder. As we're on AIM, you're just getting the black ones. But AIM does allow you to get your own logo or custom text on the side of the controller, as well as the touchpad. Tons of options for faceplates, rear shells, face buttons, performance mods, appearance customization. It's a 4 out of 5 and will be a 5 out of 5 as soon as AIM adds increased thumbstick tension to their builder and choosable colors for the bumpers and triggers. The website is a 5 out of 5. It is cosmetically appealing, easy on the eye, easy to browse and navigate. Everything is broken into categories. You can find pre-built controllers. You can find the builder for Xbox and PlayStation very easily. They're always running some kind of promotion or discount. The site's encrypted and secure. They have safe checkout with PayPal. They have free shipping. It's a damn good website. 5 out of 5. The wait time, I am going to give them a 3 out of 5. You can get the pre-built versions, which are ready to ship in 24 hours, meaning you have your controller in hand within 3 to 5 days generally. But if you go through the builder and spec out a custom controller, you are going to have to wait several weeks to get your controller. I did wait, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks to get this controller, which isn't terrible in comparison to the 3.5 months I had to wait for my Battle Beaver, with no updates or status notifications, by the way. And I will say I have noticed from afar observing AIM that their delivery times fluctuate a lot. I've seen them get as high as 9 to 10 weeks, and then I've seen them spit out controllers in about a week. So it really does fluctuate. It depends on their workload. But after careful, anonymous observation from afar, I would have to give AIM a 3 out of 5 when it comes to delay or wait time getting your controller. So as for the pros and cons of the AIM DualSense controller V3 2022 current offering, we are going to start with the cons because there's less of them. We'll get them out of the way. And also, people love negativity on the internet. The RGB LED option for the thumbsticks, don't get it. I wish I didn't. It's a waste of money because as you can see, the colors are not in sync. You can't dim them, turn them off, change colors. It's kind of pointless. Secondly, while remapping the paddles is quick and clean, I do hope that AIM adds an additional button press on the front, such as the mute button, to go into remapping mode, so you don't ever accidentally jump into remapping mode, making your controller useless during gameplay. Third, the rear paddles are freakishly loud, so if you're a streamer or YouTuber, you're going to be
picking up all those clicks, or even if you're just a gamer that plays multiplayer and you're calmed up with your buddies via Discord or Skype or something, they're going to be hearing all those clicks and not like it. The V2 paddles. Yes, as a whole, that entire paddle design I'm going to list as a con. If you are going to buy an AIM PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, make sure that you have the Pro Back option and make sure that you do opt for the V3 paddles, either when you buy the controller or at a later time upgrade to the V3, because the V2 is not great. Next up, AIM is very limited in their cosmetic selections or options for back shell colors as well as rear paddle colors. If they could offer their rear paddles and plastic rear shells in a multitude of colors, that would be great. Speaking of customization, bumpers and triggers, you should be able to paint them in the builder. I'm not saying it has to be individual buttons like Beaver does, but almost every other builder, Hex, MegaModz, allow you to choose colored bumpers and triggers. Technically, they're not called bumpers on a PlayStation, but I'll continue to call them that. I know it's L1, R1, but we'll call them bumpers or shoulder buttons. That works too. And last but certainly not least, I do hope that in the future, AIM does offer increased thumbstick tension in their builder, because that is a very welcome feature, and it is something that I feel will definitely complete this controller. Now, as for the pros, cosmetically, this controller is absolutely gorgeous, as with virtually every other AIM controller that I have personally tested. Build quality, fit and finish, and warranty are all top tier. This does have the best warranty I've seen from a controller company with a lifetime limited. Unfortunately, limited does mean it doesn't cover stick drift, but even with that included, it is the best controller warranty on the market currently that I've seen. Thumbsticks perform very good. They had better thumbstick accuracy out of the box than almost any other DualSense I've tested, and I actually like the rubber material on the AIM thumbsticks, and I like that you can quickly and easily swap them. The optional mechanical digital face buttons and D-pad, the clicky switches, feel fantastic. They are quiet, clicky, last for millions of clicks. I can't recommend them enough. The paddle system is awesome. The fact you can remove them, you can switch between V2 and V3 shape. They are in an ergonomic, comfortable position, easy to remap. They just work and do what they should. You can cover all four of them simultaneously, comfortably. It's a good paddle system. The mechanical bumpers and triggers are top tier. These Pro Grips are awesome. I would recommend them. The fact that they make their own charging dock specifically meant to work with the rear paddle system, because most charging docks for DualSenses will not work with Pro controllers that have paddles on the back. They just don't clear them. So that's a pro that for around $20, you can drop in 2 of your AIM controllers and charge them in a little dock. Dock is not perfect. Again, comprehensive review coming soon, but it is good. And the biggest pro, in my opinion, which rolls me right into the verdict, is the fact that this is the cheapest custom DualSense controller on the market. If you are just looking for the performance upgrades, i.e. 4 remappable rear paddles, and currently it's a $1 upgrade for the mechanical switches, you're looking at about $140, and that's before any discounts or promotions. You slap those on there, remove an extra $20, you're looking at about $120 for a 4-paddle controller, which is a lot of money, but that is substantially cheaper than all the competitors. Scuf Reflex out the door was about $260. Battle Beaver, Evil, Hex, MegaModz, you're spending at least $200 to get yourself a DualSense controller, unless they're running some kind of sale or promotion. Somebody will jump down there in the comments section and be like, well, Kevin, actually I got mine for $120. I'm not talking about some crazy promotion. I'm talking about their average standard year-round annual price. AIM is the best value. Hands down. That is why it is an easy recommendation for me. There's not very many things in life that are easy, but this is an easy recommend for me. Whenever I'm playing games on my PS5 or PC, 9 out of 10 times it is an AIM controller in my hands. Granted, it is my job to test and review a multitude of controllers on the market. In my personal free time, it is usually an AIM controller in my hands. When it is not, there are 2 or 3 other DualSense controllers that I constantly play with, and I will be doing a comprehensive comparison side by side of all the custom DualSenses on the market. But in the meantime, all you need to know, the AIM V3 is a damn good controller and has my full recommendation. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. Check out Into the AM for some of the sickest looking and most comfortable cloth to ever grace my gaming giblets. If you don't want to be scorching your corneas with harmful blue light, check out Gamer Advantage, the only blue light glasses on the market that look sexy and actually work. If you're looking for a custom controller that'll blow the competition's tits back, AIM definitively has the best bang for buck or price to performance when it comes to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch controllers. Nope, they don't do Switch, but they do gaming mice. I said doo-doo. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. If you need a quick laugh or blast of gamer adrenaline, check my short form videos at TikTok. To get in touch with myself and the stallions and stallionettes of gamer heaven, join the community Discord and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding. Starting June, I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.